Very excited. 'Cause
Okay,
Penny's here.
so your mic is live.
Okay.
My mic is live.
My dog is
and
caught.
Your dog is caught. Come on, Shadow.
Shadow.
Come on.
Okay. All right.
And here we are. So
We're gonna give this a go.
I'm Liz,
I'm Naomi,
and we're the Ring Galloway Girls.
and today we're trying out a walk pod
A walk pod
with
and-
strollers.
With strollers.
So it
and
might
a
be a
dog.
challenge.
And we'll see how this works. Look, there's Naomi. Look, we're both.
The dog is gonna pull me in all sorts of directions,
It'll be fine.
but we're here.
We'll survive it.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe it's better if it's low.
We can
And a
pause
little
and reset.
bouncy.
I'm
We might
sorry.
need to do we might just need to do no video.
It's the sidewalk too. Like we're having
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about this week?
I don't know. We talk about how you're cleared to run.
I am cleared to run, so I had a follow up with the spine doctor, you know, the specialist, and they said, well, we don't tell runners not to run. And I said, well, because, you know, last time I was here, they just kind of warned me to stay away from pounding. And she said, well, listen, you are aging. We're all aging. And as we age, we have degeneration naturally in our spine, in our joints. And it happens for everyone. And you aren't going to do something traumatic by running, but yeah, you're doing little
might
bitty
be in
damage
pain.
all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you might be in pain. And it's really, so you have to weigh, you know, how much do you love running? How much joy does it bring you versus does it cause pain? And then, you know, so that's the same conversation you're going to have, like other people will have when they can't run because of their knees or their hips or
Right.
their back, whatever. So it's really just like, yeah, how much can you tolerate? Which is exactly kind of what your doctor said about your foot.
Yeah. Yeah, my doctor was like, you know, let pain be your guide. You know, if it still hurts, it's probably still broken and still needs to heal. If it doesn't hurt, great.
Then
you know.
all good.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's so exciting. So have you done any running since the clearance?
I have not, because I'm also solo parenting this weekend. So
And you're like still crushing it and loving crushing it on the bike.
I'm loving the bike, and so the bike is, you know, I'm just going to continue to use the bike as my like endurance for a while. That's my mitochondria builder, like build all those little mitochondria, muscular build on the bike, and then I'll probably, it's going to warm up, like it's warmer today, it's going to warm up tomorrow. Maybe I can like sneak out tomorrow being a day where I work from home and Julian will be at daycare. Maybe I can sneak out and try that 10 minutes without the stroller, because I'm kind of worried about pushing a stroller and that being part of the problem. You know how it is.
Yeah, totally.
Strollers mess you up with your gait.
Brian and I actually went on a 20-minute run yesterday
yay.
with the stroller, and I was thinking that exact thing, like about how, like the back of my right side, like on my back, was kind of sore, and my right hamstring was sore, and I'm like, you know, maybe as I'm getting back in, as much as I don't love the treadmill, maybe the treadmill is my answer, right?
Right.
As we kind of like get back into things.
Yes, and now that it's like, okay.
All right, so we had a little technical glitch, and we were talking, we didn't realize that we had a technical glitch. So we're gonna backtrack and talk about how, you know, it's easy to get out for a run during the day if it's 10 minutes long, or maybe 20, maybe up to 30, but it's really hard when you have like a normal job to run for, you know,
An hour.
Right,
But
because an hour run takes an hour and a half.
Right.
A 30-minute run takes 45 to 50 minutes.
Yes.
My max has really been a 40-minute run at work, because that's 10 minutes to prep.
Get ready.
40 minutes to run, 10 minutes to de-prep.
Great.
De-prep a word?
Get back to your desk. Like, yeah, the last run I did, which was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I was testing things out, it was, I think, 25 minutes. And it was perfect because I didn't really even get sweaty, so I just kind of went out at lunchtime.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was, you know, 2, 3 in the afternoon, whatever time, when the sun was shining. And so, yeah, now I think I'll be able to do that for sure during my, to get back, like my 10 minutes to try it first, and then 20, and just kind of work my way up. And and it won't be an hour, and that's okay. And like, if I'm back to an hour, it'll be early in the morning. But like you were saying, it could be your lunch break, or your 20-minute, 30-minute in the afternoon could be your double. Once you're
so
back.
I was thinking, like, you know, we had talked about Monday, Wednesday doing 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, And then if we can throw an additional 20 minutes in at 2 or even noon, like, you know, that's enough time
To recover between.
for just a tiny, easy double. And I'm talking about 20 minutes being a mile and a half, not
Yeah.
20 minutes being 2.5 miles.
Absolutely.
So that's really important. That's a really important distinction when it's a double, because I know we've talked about doubles in the past, and it's so funny for both of us to be like ramping back into running and talking about doubles. Doubles is an advanced thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, though, like I've kind of never stopped doubling.
Well,
so I mean,
'cause
with
you've been
a
on the
few
bike.
breaks, but what I'll do is, well, no, because my double might be my strength work.
Right.
Or so the double, it's a really key distinction that it's supposed to be easy if it's a run, but
Yeah.
you can also, your double can be a bike, your double can be something else during the day, and you know, excuse the dog, and if and 20 minutes is enough. Like that's
Yeah.
also something that, you know, you don't think about, but the double doesn't have to be a big long, like 20 minutes you'll get to.
Oh,
20
no.
minutes you'll
My
we'll have
watch
to turn-
talks. I'm so
Well,
sorry.
I know, mine does too. We'll have to turn that off. Oh well.
That's fine.
20 minutes is enough to get your heart rate up, and
And to increase that stimuli, like, yeah.
the whole point of that double.
Did we already talk on the pod about the 18 minutes thing from
No.
Swap? Okay.
No, we haven't.
So in Swap mentioned at the last little bit of their podcast 2 weeks ago about how if you do 18 minutes a day, it adds up to 100 hours at the end of a year.
Oh, amazing.
And it's like, where can you add an additional 18 minutes? And they were talking about like adding an additional 18 minutes to your run, getting an out and back, right? Or adding an additional
Yes,
18
yeah.
minutes of strength training or whatever each day. And I was immediately struck by the fact that I can't even find 18 minutes most
Oh.
days. And I was like, oh my gosh, like for me, it's not about adding 18 minutes, it's about finding my initial 18 minutes.
Yes.
And that's what like has me so excited about like starting the weaning process with Addison. Like I love nursing her. I'm so happy to have been able to exclusively provide breast milk to her.
Right.
She's never had formula.
For her whole little life.
I mean, other than like her very first few minutes of life when her blood sugar was so low, they were like, give her this formula.
Yeah. And then, and
to
obviously
see
we're fed
if
as
she
best.
can't-
There's nothing wrong with.
To see if she can avoid NICU time. Well, it didn't work.
Right.
So, and then of course the NICU staff, so as an aside, they were like, never give preemies formula, it will cause GI distress. I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, it's a
Well,
whole
at
thing.
least, yeah. No,
But-
it'll be.
I love that I've been able to do that, but I'm so ready to be done. And
Yeah, and to
so-
have your body back, and to have
Yes.
a little bit of time back, and 18 minutes really is so doable. And I know it doesn't sound doable right now for you when your days are the way they
it's-
are, but it will be.
It's really being intentional about finding those 18 minutes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have identified where they could be.
Awesome. That's
You know?
amazing. Yeah, no, I feel like that's the thing that I've had to work around for years now is
Yeah.
letting go of like.
All right,
Before we-
so
So
I keep
finding the 18 minutes.
yeah,
Oh,
finding the 18
Yeah,
minutes.
if you
I
notice
keep
gaps.
accidentally like turning the videos off. So hopefully we'll be able to stitch these together.
Yeah, this is an experiment, but hopefully
Yeah.
it'll have some good combo out of it, and it'll be something to try. Because this is our way now of finding more minutes in the day,
Addison's first nap.
right? Just napping and walking.
Napping and walking.
How can we find the
and
time?
Kid time. Yeah.
So what we're saying that. Oh yeah, I was gonna say that like for me that's been something I've struggled with is learning to just like it's okay if it's only
It's
18
only
minutes
18 minutes.
or 20
right.
minutes, right? Like
Right.
a mile and a half is still a mile and a half run. Like is still valuable.
Well, I've also been like looking back at my stories about how fit I was this time last year during pregnancy.
Yeah.
When we were doing the 30-minute 1 mile and 1 mile challenge. Or we had just come off of that.
Yeah.
Morning. I was so fit because I was getting at least 30 minutes of activity every day.
Every day. Yeah.
If not 45 because of doing the walk, the run, and the 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh, when we were doing that challenge at the beginning of
Yeah.
2024, that was crazy.
Yeah.
They don't have that challenge right now. Like
Garmin?
they don't have a walk streak, a 30-minute streak. They just have their normal ones, which I
No,
was
those
kind of,
are repeatable badges.
yeah,
Those are
but they were,
repeatable badges.
okay,
All right,
well,
so
they
hold
were
on.
new.
I'm having
They were
like
new.
a contact issue. I thought it was
Yeah.
upside down, and so I flipped it, but I don't think it was upside down. I think it just had something
Oh
on it.
no. Should we pause?
Oh my gosh.
Do we need to pause?
No, it's totally fine. We can.
I have
This is
to
the
find,
live of being outdoors.
yeah, it's going to be a little
All
bit
right.
discombobulated, but
I can always cut it out. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm going to try
I
not
know.
to pause because, I mean, I guess actually I probably should stop and restart, but it's fine. I'll listen
It'll be all
back
right.
when we edit.
yeah, yes.
This one will just take more editing power than other episodes where we literally do zero editing.
I know, we always say, oh, we could cut that. And it's like, no, let's let it be real. I mean, that's the other thing. We're the real.
Yeah.
Real. We're not the Instagram version of anything.
No, oh my gosh, no. Although I would say sometimes it might.
No, it's in my hand.
Oh,
We've
there
got
it
to
is.
start we've got to get the TV set up for him.
Yeah, get the kids' TV happening. I'm pretty sure Addie fell asleep at 9:38, so I've got to remember that because I log all of her naps. I figure she hasn't made a sound and she's laying down, so she must be asleep.
That's great.
That is my wonderful parenting right there. She must be asleep. I'm not even going to check on her.
Yeah. Well, we did so many
Yeah, she's asleep.
stroller runs, and that was actually something we were talking about that I'm not sure if it ended up getting cut, but stroller running, messes with your form, and so
Oh yeah, no, that was definitely in there.
you want it, yeah. So I think it's good to limit it. I think it's,
At least until you're fit enough. Like that's what I was telling Brian. I was like, hey, like well, first off, like he doesn't run very often and he tends to like kind of go hard at the beginning. And I was like, hey, I can do this, but remember, this is my only run, not my extra run.
right.
So this is hard on me pushing the stroller.
Did you push the whole time? Because that was
Yeah.
my next question. Was that you?
Yes.
If you didn't get to alternate, then yeah,
I pushed the whole time.
Yeah. So that's where.
I push the whole time most of the time.
Right.
Like, every once in a while he'll push at the end of a run, the end of a walk. But for the most part, he takes the dog and I take the baby.
Yeah. Well, so it's
So.
like as nice as it would be, to do a family run, it's also like if he can just watch her for 20 minutes and you can go out for 20 minutes, that will be.
Yeah, but we needed her to take a nap, so
Yeah.
it became like
Yep,
a whole
yep.
like.
It's the purpose of I know. That's the purpose of the run in like the early days.
Well, and that's also
purpose
why
of
I
the
was like,
walk.
oh, let's meet at 9 because
She needs a
that's
nap.
her first nap.
Right.
And she takes a longer nap in the stroller than she does in her crib.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Well.
which is great.
So the benefit, we should talk about the benefits of walking
Yeah.
and how sneaky, I know we've talked about it before, sneaky low aerobic base and how,
Well, that I think is what has allowed me to feel like coming off of the flu, and that like off of first a broken foot, then 2 illnesses back to back, one of them being flu A. Like I just focused on my steps
yeah.
when I was coming back because my sleep was so disturbed. I knew that if I had added a run, it might have been detrimental. I think now I've actually hit the pivot point where if I don't add runs, that's going to just keep me back.
Yes.
But
yeah,
when
do
you're
have
coming
to.
off of illness, it's that
Right,
it's
the
that
balance.
inflection point of like, is this run actually going to set my recovery back more because I haven't been sleeping or because something else?
Yeah, and the same goes in training when you are feeling good, is that you have to make you have those inflection points all the time where it's like, yeah, this additional threshold work will be great for, like a big push to get me to the next level, but also being mindful that like a lot of your time should be spent in easy zones. And I see a lot of that being a problem.
And a lot of times, I think Swap has talked about this a lot. If you haven't done the Trial of Miles, sometimes the Trial of Miles, which is easy running, is better for you than adding that intense work. If
Oh, yeah,
you
for
have
sure.
done the trial of miles, that intense work with lower volume might be better. So it is like, and both things can cause injuries. Like both
Yeah.
high mileage can cause injuries and intense. And what people tend to do, especially their first time doing high mileage, they might bring that intensity that they've been doing to
Yes.
their high mileage. Like,
Right.
I know I've definitely done that before.
Same. I've definitely done that, and I've definitely seen it with a lot of other people when, you know, they've got, especially like if you're following a plan to the T and you're
Yeah.
following like Jeff's plans, and you've got threshold work on Tuesdays, and then Thursdays you've got the mile repeats that are the midweek
Yeah.
ones, and then on Sunday you've got either your super long run or more mile repeats.
Well, and it's that super long run, it's so hard to remember that has to be
So slow.
so slow when, like, you know,
It is.
it's easy to accomplish faster.
Yes.
But like that's the one where the intensity has to really dial down.
And where you really just want it to be done sometimes, and
Yeah.
you have, X number of miles to cover, and you're like, well, if I ran it in 3 hours versus 4 hours, like I'd rather run
Right.
in 3 and be done.
Right. And I think one of the things with that super long run, I think one place where you can, like, rather than, let's say, your long run pace should be no faster than 12-minute miles. Like, this is just
For an example.
for an example. Okay. Which means that your marathon pace would be about 9:30. Okay. You could easily do the long run with a marathon pace of 9:30. You could easily do it at 10:45.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? But doing it at 10:45 isn't going to make you better for the marathon. You're actually better off doing, let's say you have 12 miles, right? You're better off doing 8 miles at that 12:30, and then doing 2 miles at 9:15,
Yeah.
then going back to your 12:30, or even walking the last 2.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you're practicing marathon pace or half marathon pace on tired legs. Now that's only if you have no injuries,
Yes. Yeah.
right? You feel really good. Like you've got nothing that you're nursing. You're not seeing a PT. You're kind of in
And-
perfect running form.
And you're not trying to prove something with
Yeah.
those miles in the.
You're literally adding them as a little bit of a training block, and you're not doing more than 2. You're doing 18 minutes, 20 minutes
Yeah.
at the end of that big work. And it can't be at the beginning. It has to be at the end like that. So,
Yeah. No, for sure.
but
And-
again, that's like you're lighting a little bit of a match there, and when you play with fire,
Yes.
you might get burned.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to really, I know it feels very doable, like you said, 10:45, 11, whatever. It feels really doable.
When you're a 9:30
When you're a
marathoner, because
Yeah.
that means you're an 8:45 5K runner. So like, or even an
faster.
8:30
Yeah.
5K runner, even an 8:15 5K runner. So like, those 10s
Yeah.
do feel easy.
Or even for me right now, what am I, like a 7-something 5K runner and a 9:30 marathon
Yeah.
runner. So, yeah, the 10-something feels really easy.
I saw on something on Instagram that was like, if you were to run a marathon today, what do you think your time would be?
Uh-huh.
And she gave ranges. And I still think that if I had to go run a marathon today, I could be faster. I could be sub 5 hours
I
if
think
I
so.
had to do it right now.
Yeah, I agree.
With like zero
I agree.
training.
I was thinking my number, and it would not, I don't think it'd be sub 4:30 right now, but I think it would definitely be sub 5.
I think I'd be
But
right. I think I could
Maybe
be
4:30, maybe 4:40.
I think I could be as like in the 4:30s if I really
Yeah.
pushed.
I'm sure you could.
Yeah. I would
Because-
probably,
Again, it's like, it's the decades
because that's what
behind you.
10:23.
Yeah.
4:30 is 10:20 pace.
It's-
So
It's the decades of miles.
the
It's-
trials of miles.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking, I think last time about your goals and looking back at from when you were early 30s doing triathlons back then, and now you're doing another try this year, and like, I look back my early 30s, 10 years ago, I ran Marine Corps in my
Yeah.
first 423 or something, and like, my 5K was, whatever 8:08 pace or something. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm crushing my early 30s self.
Yeah.
And I'll keep crushing my early 30s self for a while. So it's,
And we're gonna get back to being able to
even not
do.
running as much as I did.
We're gonna get back to being able to do more running, more quality. Like, even if it means the running is still a lot easy. And we
Yes.
have all these new tools that we didn't have back then. We've got our Peloton bikes. We've got the pool.
Right.
The pool is a game changer. I wish everybody would give aqua jogging a try.
Yeah. Oh, for
Water
sure.
running, like,
I know.
it's amazing.
I know. It really did translate well. Like when we've used it the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm banking on the Peloton working really great.
will.
And I think it will, because look at like Scott, my husband.
Yeah.
He runs once every 6 weeks or something, and he still crushes me at races. And the rest of the time, he's on his bike. He's on
Yeah.
his stationary, his indoor bike, his outdoor
I
bike.
think you need 6 to 8 weeks of specific training before a marathon. Like, I don't think what Scott does,
I
which
agree.
is like
It's not smart.
one
It's-
run a week for 4 weeks leading up to a marathon.
he gets the minimum, and so yeah, no. He's a bit of a unicorn. But yeah.
And he's nowhere close to his potential.
Oh, for
Like,
sure. No. I'm not talking about like
He
yeah,
can run
potential.
on a good day, even with his minimal run training, he can break 4 on a good day, because the last couple of
Yeah.
marathons he's run have been bad days.
Right. No, if
Like-
yeah. Oh, potential wise, no. If he actually wanted to train, he could be.
He could be sub
low
3.
3s or sub 3. Yeah.
Yeah,
But he
if
doesn't
he
train.
really
so.
trained, yeah.
No, but like, oh, for
Especially
sure.
if he trained with us, because if he could get his walk speed
Slow
up,
it down. Yeah, and slow down his runs, because
Yeah.
he goes and runs everything at the same pace.
Well, and if he trained with us, he would actually increase his foot speed, right?
Yes.
Because we run so much faster than he does. We just run for such a short amount of time.
I know. We run in the 60s or whatever, and yeah, he just runs everything at the same pace. He does what I did in my early running days. Everything's at 8:30 pace or something. So
Which is fine if he also is a little bit like a brontosaurus and doesn't get hurt.
very true. I don't understand it. He's like never had an injury, knock on wood. He
Yeah.
has though. He had stress fractures, but it was in
But,
high
yeah.
school or
Yeah.
the beginning of
That doesn't count.
when he started. Yeah, or when
That
he was
was
in
probably
the
honestly
Citadel.
because that was probably low energy availability.
It was.
Because he was going through puberty at the time in high school.
Yeah, he wasn't eating enough, and then he was doing 10 miles a day or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It was definitely low energy availability.
I
But-
mean, which is like,
But he doesn't get injured as an adult. So.
that's such a thing. So, on the last podcast, we talked a little bit about, and I think we had most of our conversation after the pod, but we talked about how you started hormone replacement therapy. And then after the pod, we talked a little bit about weight and everything. And,
Yeah.
I found out 2 of my friends are on GLP-1s.
Like
Ozempic,
Ozempic.
which is, and I don't know if they're on specifically Ozempic or one of the other GLP-1s, but they're both on them. They both qualified and got them from their doctors.
Yeah.
And they have pretty massive side effects, but
Oh, yeah.
the way that they work is they cause you to eat less.
Yeah, they suppress your
Which-
appetite and cause GI
and-
distress.
But it also changes, like, it's hormonal too. So I would imagine it doesn't have a superly depressing hormonal effect, but I don't know, right? I know that it works on that one hormone system, the, blood glucose levels, but how, like, both of them were working out beforehand and are no longer working out.
Well, and a big thing
And I'm
about it
like-
is that when you get off of it, you gain the weight back.
Right, if you
And-
don't have something else happening. Like,
Right. So most of the, what they really want you to use it for is a jump start, but
Right.
change your habits in the meantime. And I don't think that that's the reality of what most people
how
do.
can you, I guess my question is, when you are eating less, how can you add activity? Like, I know in a smaller body activity is easier, right? So if you have 100 pounds to lose or 200 pounds to lose, I can imagine take a GLP-1, get your body smaller, start moving. Get off the GLP-1, continue moving, right?
Right.
If you are 50 pounds overweight though,
Yeah. Or 30.
Like-
or yeah.
right, how do you start that moving in a meaningful way, because especially if it causes you to lose the weight so quickly, which is what I've seen.
You're not able to
Like-
fuel, and
Right. How
You're
do
not
you fuel
fueling.
as an athlete? How do you prevent low energy availability and bone loss and all of those things that we're concerned about?
right.
You know,
I think it's a really dangerous road. I know it can work for the there's our laps. It can work for,
I think that
again,
there's-
like certain cases, certain
Right.
instances, but
and I follow a type 1 diabetic runner who did go on a GLP-1 because there's some studies about
yeah,
them helping type 1 diabetics need less insulin. And she said what she did is she went on the GLP-1. She had to stop running while she adjusted to it
yeah,
and then begin training again once she had adjusted to it. But she's also someone who will be on it for the rest of her life.
yeah, and
Because she doesn't have a working pancreas.
and she's also, I was gonna say, she also has to make huge modifications no matter what with her diet,
Right,
with her
she
lifestyle.
has to,
It's
and
not-
she has to monitor every little
Yeah.
thing in and out. And she said, I went on it because I thought it would help my diabetes. She's like, it did. I use less insulin now. She's like,
That's
side
good.
effect, I did lose weight,
right.
which does make running easier. And it's like, yep, like
Yeah.
that's the other piece of it. It's like, I think about all the injuries I'm having coming back postpartum. From my running days, I'm 35 pounds heavier right now.
Right. And you wonder, if there's like interplay, but you also know that having more weight can help you compared to how you were when
Well, but I
You
mean,
were
I'm not talking
underfueled.
about my like super underfueled days. I'm talking about
Just,
my
yeah.
my BQ time. I think when I ran CIM, I was like at probably a really great
You were in a
great
good
range
spot,
for
yeah.
myself. Because so a doctor once told me, and I know that this is not completely true, but she once told me that the first 5 feet of a woman should weigh 100 pounds.
I know I've heard that before.
And
then 5 pounds.
5 pounds per,
per
inch
inch.
after as kind of a good baseline,
Yep.
good kind of minimum.
Yep.
And I was 137 at 5'8". When
And-
which is like, that's probably a great
Right
weight.
around the
a great athletic weight
right
for me.
because 140 would be that number, that
Right.
mass.
But there was a time when we first started running together and we were training for the 10-miler that spring, I was 127.
Right.
And that is probably not a good
Too
weight
low.
for me.
Yeah, no, totally. I know, like that always has held true a little bit, those numbers, and then now perimenopause me says, nope, those numbers don't matter, and, like, it really, don't look at, like we talked about before, don't look at trying
Don't
to lose.
look at weight,
Look
yeah.
at what you can gain,
Gain, right?
not what
Gain
you're going to
fitness.
lose.
But I think
Gain
that's
muscle,
really,
gain
I think
fitness.
that's really easy when you're within the range. When you're plus, 5 to 10 pounds within that,
Yeah.
plus or minus even. Like, but when you're way outside of that, it's like, hold on,
Yeah.
because I'm getting close to 10 pounds per inch.
Outside
Over.
of what your windows
versus 5 pounds per,
Okay.
like,
Above the 5.
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like closer to 165,
So,
170.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
I always was, agreed. I was down pretty low, like I'm like 5'5.5". So it depends on which way you go. I should be between 125 and 130, and which I was usually under 125 during almost all my training. And then
Right.
sometimes I was under 120, which was, I definitely was in like lower energy availability at that time. And then
Yeah.
now I'm at like 140, and that's just perimenopause me. I've never weighed this much in adult life. I know it's not that much, but like it's, it's more of how it fits in your clothes and stuff.
yeah. Well, I will say, like from looks, you look amazing. Like,
Aw,
not
thanks.
that matters,
Right.
but like, you look really amazing. You look really proportioned. You look really strong.
Right, like it's not like and I've had
And,
people
like-
tell me, they're like, you look really good. Like I've had people say that
Yeah.
versus maybe before they were thinking you look too skinny.
Right.
I
well,
don't know.
I had people tell me that I looked too skinny, like especially in the fall of 2019,
Yeah.
like September
There were times where you
of
did,
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
where you look gone. No, I
Right.
had, I bumped into Stacy a while back. Stacy and Bob didn't recognize me, and then he said, that was Naomi, she looks so good. And after
Yeah.
And it's just funny that, so a friend's husband saying, oh, like I didn't recognize her, she looks really good, not saying like what happened to her.
Right.
But yeah, like I definitely
Whereas, like,
changed.
I have to remember, I still look postpartum. I'm still
You are
postpartum. That's okay. Like,
Yes.
like I'm still postpartum.
You're still
and I have
feeding
to
this
like,
baby.
I have to like remember that piece because I know that like, you know,
It's so hard to remember how much your hormones play a role until
Yes.
they do something different. Until you have a baby, until you go through perimenopause. Like, you
Yeah.
don't realize how much your hormones are doing under the surface as a background. Like, there's this background
well, in all
noise
your
all the
hormonal
time, right?
systems,
All
your
of the
sex
systems.
hormones, your
Not just-
like your like insulin, glycogen,
your endocrine
hormones,
system, everything.
like the entire system, your adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like I know that like, you know, doctors will say adrenal fatigue isn't a thing, but I know so many athletes who
Who've had
have
it.
experienced low energy availability cycles, which have then, and high stress cycles, which have then put them into
Adrenal fatigue.
which is adrenal fatigue, just another name for low energy availability over time, or red S, maybe.
Maybe. That's interesting.
You
You have to
know?
look at, like, what defines
Because
adrenal fatigue.
there is no definition for adrenal fatigue. It's not a recognized medical condition.
Oh. But yet we know some people who've had it. Like,
Because
they also-
but they also
So could have low energy
could hit the
availability.
criteria for red S.
Yeah.
Which is just relative energy deficiency in sport.
Yeah.
So it's a very broad umbrella if you have deficient, like, so if I eat 3,000 calories and burn 29.99 and run the same runs as Naomi, and she eats 3,000 calories but burns 4,000 calories, and we do the exact same training, we eat the exact amount of food, same amount of food, but I burn 1 calorie less and less than what I'm eating, and she burns 1,000 more, she'll be in low energy availability
Right.
or red S, and I won't be. So it's also so personal too.
Yeah, and it's also really hard to, you can't just count calories. Like, that's
Right,
like-
exactly.
it's
But like
so-
that's
I know.
something people can grasp.
It
you
is,
know?
and it's something that you try to look at, but I see so many women, especially, who's just looking at that, they're like, well, I only burned 1,000 calories of exercise today, so they limit their intake, and then they don't lose
because
weight.
their
So,
resting metabolic rate
Yes.
is like, that's
already
the other
has-
thing that you have to take into account. And the more active you are, the higher your resting metabolic rate goes.
Right.
And the more you restrict your food, the lower your resting metabolic rate goes.
Yeah.
And so
And
the
you,
whole thing.
you see so many of those.
And-
what I ate in a day.
Circling back to Ozempic, right?
Yeah.
You eat less, even though GLP-1 is telling you, eat less, you need less, it's fine, I'll pump your hormones the other way, right? Because I guess you get GLP-1, you make it in your brain by eating,
Right. So then it's
I
just,
guess.
I guess so. Yeah. So it's like it just tells your brain that you're not hungry.
Right, so then you have less on board, but like what is the effect of the metabolism long term?
Yeah. Well, and that's why they really, from what I understand, they really recommend, and I know a bunch of people who've been on it as well. My business partner, and
Yeah.
and from what I understand, they really want it to be less than 6 months.
Okay.
Ideally, you do it for a short, but in that 6 months, you're changing your diet, you're making changes across the board that you'll carry with you after, and I think it's supposed to just kickstart eating less, because if that's your key problem, is that, and we're going to go through a tunnel, and there might be some feedback sound here, but
There might be, there might not be.
maybe not. So if one of your big problems is your diet, is that you're not eating healthy foods and you're binging
Right.
at night and you're eating an entire pack of Oreos, and that's where it could come into play and actually help.
Yeah.
And it's not just because of weight loss, but usually because of high cholesterol, high blood pressure. They want to look at
Yeah.
you for other
Metabolic
things.
syndrome. So
Yeah.
metabolic syndrome is you have to be overweight. You don't have to be overweight. You have to have a certain number of criteria, and one of them is weight. The other is a fasting blood glucose over 100, which is pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
High blood pressure, so that's blood pressure over 120 over 80 is what's considered normal, but I guess it's 130 over 90 is considered
High.
pre-hypertension.
Yeah.
And that's like multiple of them. Like so everybody
Yeah.
will sometimes have a one-time high blood pressure when they're
Incident
sick or whatever.
But if you can't, yeah, if you have several of those coupled.
Yeah, and then there are sleep disturbances, sleep apnea can be one of the things. Like there's a whole bunch of things that high cholesterol, and I think it's high triglyceride.
Oh yeah.
Is like really really the marker that you have to look at. Speaking of cholesterol, though, one of the big issues with that I was like diving into is that you have to be careful with fish oil supplementation because it can artificially elevate your cholesterol, and low energy availability
What?
again
Okay,
can
that's really
elevate
interesting.
your cholesterol. So you can be like if you're super skinny and you have high cholesterol,
Right.
that can be a marker of low energy
availability.
availability.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know, a lot of people who are super skinny actually have some of the worst blood panels, right? Like they're
Right.
under.
Especially if they're skinny and not athletic.
Yeah, skinny fat. Like
Yeah.
if you're
So
yeah, I mean building muscle.
Muscle is just good for your body.
Right, and like upping your protein and yeah, like I mean obviously I think Ozempic and they have their place.
yes,
But obviously I think they're far too it's too much of a band-aid. People are looking for the instant quick fix.
yeah,
And then the reality of it is that it's like for my business partner he was pre-diabetic, he's been overweight almost his entire adult life. So like that's
Yeah.
not really, you know, that's always a factor because it's his body mass. And then, you know, some of the other factors he had as well. And like as soon as you get back off of it though, you know, he noticed that like, okay, now my diet's not suppressed anymore. My
Right.
appetite, I'm sorry. So my appetite's not suppressed anymore.
But
if
I
I'm going to go
I
back
just
to those
wonder-
sweets and things that I had before, you're going to fall right back and gain the weight back.
But I just wonder if like somebody goes on it for 6 months, right? They lose the weight, they come off of it for 6 months. What's preventing this from being a cycle of
Yes.
like a cycle of taking it in the winter so you don't have to work out because it's cold?
Well, like diet cycling too. Like
Yeah.
it's going to, you would think long term, because you're going to yo-yo is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So when they've looked at the studies, most people gain back all of the weight within 6 months or 9 months or something after I forget, I
Yeah.
haven't read the study in a few weeks but we were talking
Right.
about it at work.
Yeah.
And you gain the weight back because you didn't change your habits.
Right.
And so it almost like you have to do a cleanse at the same time. So interestingly, type 1 diabetic, and type not 1 anymore, but my employee came back, Devin, he's diabetic now. So
Okay.
he said
He's
that
type 1?
well now he has no pancreas anymore basically.
Yeah, so he's type 1.
He's whatever,
Yep.
yeah. So and he lost like 20, 30 pounds because he was on life support,
Right.
And he was
Right.
So because he hadn't eaten in over 2 weeks or whatever.
Right.
When he started eating, like nothing tasted good. Sweets
No.
tasted so sweet.
Oh, I can
candy and
imagine.
sugar. But like he obviously still has to make changes, even though it was essentially like a cleanse where he completely cut out sugar because he wasn't eating, and he can't have sugar in the same way. He has to
Right.
constantly test himself and take his do his insulin shots. But he still has to make changes. He's still, it's natural for you to fall back into the foods you ate before and eat.
Right.
So he's still coming back and eating and ordering the same foods, and we're like, we got to take care of you now, buddy. Like you can't just
Right.
eat the way you did before. For him more so than anyone, but like that's the really hard part with, it's just like anything else. Like you have to.
And it's just, Brian and I were talking about this. It's like, if you are going to eat some of the same foods, it's like limit the volume, right? If you're not like, that's the thing. It's like this fine line between.
Can you do that? Right? Can you
This
limit?
fine line between eating enough to fuel your activity and fuel your body, right? And not overdoing it if you don't have the expenditure to support it and the lifestyle to support it.
And even
Right?
if you do, like, there is something about that you can't completely outrun, right? Like, because there's only so much volume. So like, if a large quantity of what you're eating is like sugar, because you're like running,
Right. If
working
your
out,
only
you're
if your only snack is Reese's peanut butter cups.
Well, if you're only like meals too, like if you don't really do big meals, because then you've filled up on sweets,
Right.
Even though you're running and burning off so many calories, it's still.
I think the inflection point there is if you're running 40 miles a week, you can pretty much eat whatever you want. Because I haven't run 40 miles a week without being low in energy availability, like
don't know.
consistently.
I didn't lose any weight when I was running 40 miles a week last year. Like I was still, gaining. So
Yeah.
I think it depends. I think especially if you've got
I don't know, I think-
hormones overriding things.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or the lack of hormones.
Or if you're like hitting your protein targets consistently,
Right.
like, so I guess that's to your point, eating the right foods. But then
Yeah.
again, you don't want to perseverate over like what are the right foods because
No.
that can like make you stressed out.
Well, and it can be just like, that's not what life is about. Like,
Right.
don't waste your like one precious life. And if you're going to be wasting it worrying about what you're eating, oh my God. So after that conversation we had, like this was a couple days later, but I took one of Christine Dercole's classes on Peloton, and people who don't know her, she's a track race. I think that's what she does, velodrome, like track racing cyclist.
Yeah.
And she teaches Peloton classes, and she, has gone through perimenopause, like publicly, because she's been teaching Peloton for 10 years or whatever. We watch her go through this change. She's bigger than she was, right? She
Right.
talks about, on this one class the other day, she talked about a friend of hers who just suddenly, unexpectedly passed away. He was like 60 or in his low 60s. He raced with her, and he was perfectly healthy. And
my
how,
gosh.
because he was a cyclist, bike racer, like he had to have been healthy.
Yeah.
So she talks about just not wasting your one precious life. And then at the end of the class, she's like, what do you want your tombstone to say? Do you want to say she finally got down to a size whatever?
Yeah.
She was so good at dieting.
Yeah.
Like why
I love
is
that.
that our like focus
Right?
of so much
Why
of our
do you
time?
want to take up less space?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Julian needs me for a second.
Okay.
What's up, buddy?
So that is just so interesting because I think about that a lot, and like my long story long of all of this is I'm gonna continue to order my chocolate waffle from Jackson's.
Yes.
It's like the dessert chocolate waffle.
Keep eating what brings you joy, right?
Yeah.
Keep doing what makes you happy. What do you need, buddy?
I need to see if I lost.
Oh,
So we took a quick little pause. And so just to get back on track with the conversation, Brian and I ordered Jackson's for dinner on Friday nights. It's like our little date
Aw.
night. And
do you take out? You go or
we
you go
do
there?
it to go. No, we do to go.
Oh, fun.
And I get
I love it.
they have a gluten-free chocolate waffle with ice cream and stuff, and it is like
Mm.
the only thing I crave. I'm like obsessed with it. Like he was like, well, we should like, because we had been getting salads and then a main course and then like splitting the dessert. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, I'm only gonna get my main course because we're gonna spend less money and I'm gonna eat less food. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm still getting dessert.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's-
no, we shouldn't. And I was like, we should.
It's
my
rare for you
happiness.
to get something that's gluten free for dessert too. Like
Exactly.
That's a
And
rare
like
treat.
that, I think from pregnancy, my taste buds have changed. Like all I want in life is like ice cream and chocolate and like desserts. And I was never a big dessert person before. I'm more of like a candy, like a fruity candy person.
Yeah, not
But I
dairy,
think it's
like-
like making the milk craves
Yeah.
that sugar and that fat. So.
I was gonna say it's got to be. Milk is made of so much sugar.
So maybe that will
Aw.
change as I wean.
right.
But
Who knows? That'll be interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I can't pinpoint, but it was because we did such a long wean. Like it was.
Yeah.
I can't pinpoint like specific differences. I did notice cravings with pregnancy for both
Yeah.
of them, but and it was sugar and dairy with Lila. It was ice cream.
Well, and like I think about that too. So a friend of mine is actually 5 weeks, 4 days pregnant with her second IVF baby. Her first baby is a week younger than Addie, but was due 3 weeks before because Addie was a month early.
Yeah.
And so it's just amazing. She's pregnant again. And the coolest thing is her story is so great because she had one, before her transfer with her son, had one last IVF cycle. They got one egg. It fertilized. It turned into one embryo. And that is the embryo that she's
Aw.
pregnant with right now.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
untested, so they like
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just kind of like a little miracle. And she's younger. She's 37, I think, and I
Uh-huh.
think was 35. So,
Yeah. So there's a good chance.
good chance
Everything
that it's
will
a
work
good
out.
one. Yeah. But it's just crazy because I don't feel ready at all
No. And
to be
that's
pregnant
okay.
again.
And that's
And like
so okay.
selfishly, I also know that even though I do want to have my kids kind of close together, selfishly, I know that pregnancy and postpartum will be easier the second time around. if I'm a little fitter when I start.
Right. Well, and that's just, it always amazed me, my friends who would have kids who had 3 kids or 4 with my cousin before I had my second, in between when we had the first ones around
Yeah.
the same time. And I was so not ready for a while, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a shorter timelines, you've got to get ready, but like, that's okay. There's no comparison. It
Well,
doesn't, everyone's different.
I think also Addie's personality, she will do better with a baby coming into our world when she can understand it a little bit more.
Right.
She's really smart. I think that she could understand a lot, but she
would be
gets
tough.
really
She would be
jealous
jealous.
of the other babies in the baby room when we're at school.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. It will be a tough transition probably, but it's really just what you want and not
Yeah.
what,
I think for our whole family, I think after CIM is the right time.
Yeah.
Provided training starts and goes well. If training is like still floundering, I might be like, at
Screw
this,
it.
I'm ready to have a baby.
yeah. No, I mean, you got to obviously look at, your timeline differently, but there's just no comparing one baby to another, one mother
Absolutely.
to another. And so, and like, yeah, I mean,
And the universe may have different plans for us.
Right.
So,
that too. Like,
Leave it
there's
up to the universe.
There's no guarantees on anything. So,
yeah.
well, that's exciting. And,
Yeah.
I hope timing for you works
I
out how you want
actually
it
really
to.
hope that we can run some fast marathons this fall. Like,
know.
I'm really excited about it. Like, I'm looking forward to metamorphosis this spring as I
yeah.
train into a very fit person again.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of, like, I will need to start training. I got into the Broad Street 10
Yeah.
miler, and Scott did too. It was
Yay!
like, I'm glad they do like a twofer, because what I did was I registered as both. They didn't have teams. Like, you know how
Yeah.
majors will have teams, so you're either both in or both out? But what I did was I registered him and then myself under the same registration.
yeah.
Like, and so then it sent it to, we're both in, so that's good. It's the biggest, I don't know if it's the world's biggest, but it's US's biggest 10 miler.
That's awesome.
Like, I think it's 40,000. I don't know. So it's bigger than Army 10. Which is
Wow.
crazy. There must be waves. I don't know how
Yeah.
logistics will go, but we booked our hotel, and my parents are gonna come watch the kids that night.
That's so exciting.
And that way we can have dinner the day before with my brother and family and everything. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
So that's gonna be my spring race. So hopefully I can get into actually physically running before then.
Well, I didn't cancel my Alexandria half.
Good.
So apparently I'm going to run that.
I was gonna sign up for it if I didn't get into Broad Street.
Yeah.
It's a week before Broad Street.
Yep.
So. But yeah, like I'm, hopeful that I'll be able to start running outside with minimal
Yeah.
pain, minimal discomfort, and just, I don't mind shifting to where a lot of my work is on the bike. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
And then running takes, I do the running that I need to do, kind of thing.
Right. Right. Like, be intentional about training.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, like, my hope is that by the time we start our fall cycle, that we're ready to do a traditional fall cycle.
Yeah.
At least
I
our
think so.
traditional, like,
By like July,
intermediate
August,
runner
we'll be able to.
versus like maybe not an advanced runner, doubles, all of that. Maybe it's just a intermediate 4 runs a week.
Yeah.
But-
and if there's doubles, like they can be on the bike. So,
Right.
And
I meant maybe not double in
not
running.
double running. Right.
Because
No, I agree. Probably not.
that might be too much bone stress.
It became too much when I jumped back into it.
Well,
and that's when I got my
part of it is
injuries.
that you and I both looked at doubles as hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Or it was mileage, and I was doing a lot of mileage. Like when I
Yeah.
was doing, even if they were 30 minutes, I was doing, might have done 8 miles in the morning, and then
Right.
30 minutes, 3 miles at night. But so it was like I was doing 11 to 13 miles a day on my double days during like
Which,
2022.
if you're not like working, is low mileage.
Oh, I know. If
But
that's not
when
your,
you're working a full-time job,
if that's not your main job.
yeah, it would be interesting to calculate how many miles, like an equation for mileage and intensity and the amount of minutes you need to recover. Like, I think that's what Garmin tries to do
Yeah.
with their hours of recovery, but they're really only taking heart rate data into account. It would be interesting to take like more metabolic. I mean, I guess they're taking overnight HRV and sleep and
Yeah.
all of that now.
And stress.
but
Like,
yeah,
but they don't, like, I still don't have, I have recommendations for how much I should run each day and what type of run, but they don't give me recommendations.
do you
I-
have
know,
cycling listed as your
It's-
as an activity, as a main activity?
Well,
on
it's
the app?
because I need to put a cadence
Sensor.
on my Peloton or something, so that because it's not, it thinks
Type
that
it
they're,
in. Do you type
I
in?
do.
Oh.
I manually, so that my Garmin data has all my miles, but it doesn't. It gets the heart rate, so I feel like it's getting something from that. It does tell me like how much time I need to recover,
Well,
but I feel like it's not like.
I put my cadence sensor from my outdoor bike on my Peloton.
And does it work?
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
The
I'm
one
just
that
gonna
goes
order
on the-
another one.
The one that goes on the crank. Yeah.
I'll just order another one and stick it on there so that I can, because I would love it to sync over.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I have Peloton. Like, why you gotta be the way you are? Why
My
do you have
kids
to
should play with Garmin.
Why do you only play with Apple? I mean, the Wahoo, or what did we get? What did I get? It's the Coros. That
Coros.
strap works
Yeah.
great. So now my
It
heart
works
rate is
great with
there.
everything. Yeah.
Because my heart rate used to not, like, I could not get it to sync
Well, oh, from the watch.
from the watch.
wrist
It
base?
kept having, the wrist, it kept having like disconnection. So
Yeah.
I now have my heart rate stuff on my screen, which helps, when you're doing
Yeah.
all these rides, you want to be able to see what your heart rate is and kind of figure out what zones you're supposed to be
Yeah.
in. And,
Heart rate wise, not just power zones. Yeah.
yeah, both of them, right? Like looking at them both and making sure like so that like if they say, okay, we're gonna, first half of class, you can take it easier. Second half of class, you can push
Crank it
to
up.
a higher level because your
Well-
power zones might be wrong.
And something to really like the benefit of the bike is gut training and GI training. You can take all
can
that
eat.
fuel on the bike that's a little harder when you're first learning it in running.
That's true. Yeah, I
So-
started to force myself to fuel on the bike because I wasn't for a long time fueling on the bike. I was so bad about it.
Well, because it's so easy to be like, oh, it's just a
Yeah.
Peloton
Right.
ride.
And I'm fully, on the fuel on it's fuel for 30 minutes. Like I know, and drinking water. Like I feel like there's a lot of people who I see them say that. Like,
I have drip drop in my bottle.
yeah, nice. I feel like a lot of people say they don't, because they don't carry water on their runs. They talk about how they're then like not hydrated. Like the whole day they're trying to catch up. And I'm like,
Right.
why didn't you just drink 24 ounces of water during that 30 minutes?
Right.
And you would have been fine.
Right, Brian and I split a pack of shoes yesterday on our 20-minute run.
Nice.
Of course, we then walked for a mile and a half afterwards.
Yeah.
So, it's like,
So it was like a total
right,
time.
we did like 0.5 or 0.7 walk before, and then we did 1.8 running, that was 20 minutes, and then we did 1.5 walking.
Awesome.
So it was a good, activity.
Right. And a great time on feet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we had done a really long walk the weekend before, so I knew my foot could handle at least the time on my feet.
Right. That's
It's
so important.
weird because it's still weirdly sore, but not the same. So I wonder if I had two things happening.
Yeah, or
like
if one
the
caught together. Like
Right.
if, because
Or
of
the stress fractures because they're in the wrong bones. Are
Yeah.
an incidental finding.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Well, and like when I asked at the doctor about my, about returning to run, about, my mobility and stuff, and she said, well, what you're having the issues with is really your muscles.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, so it's really like if I just get some dry needling done on like my traps and in between my shoulder blade
Yeah.
to release that, it's not like what the pain I'm having now is not from the disc or from the spine.
Right.
So that's like
That's good.
That's reassuring because muscle is muscle. So like
Muscle is easier.
and
Although I will tell you that
it can take a long time.
that upper back neck is one of the hardest places to treat.
Right.
Because that's like where I was getting a lot. Like I was diagnosed with a chronic pain condition from tightness and pain there,
gosh.
and it all stemmed from mobility in my ribs.
Oh yeah. No, it definitely is taking obviously a really long time
Yeah.
to get better. It's taking a really long time, but it's muscle at least.
It will get there.
So it will. It'll just take time.
We'll get there. It's I hope people like this, like rambling episode because this is more like what it's like to run with us, only we're walking.
Yeah, this is our typical, we just cover a lot of topics.
Yeah.
And
talk about
Yeah.
like what we're excited about too, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, we're doing that kind of deep into the episode versus at the beginning, but I feel like maybe that's what happens on runs too. We start to get like the endorphins flowing from the work, and then we're like
100%.
so excited about the future. And
Yeah, and like if you when you go out and you get that work in, you do the workout, and then it starts to give you hope that like, oh, yeah, I can do this.
well, and it's a great reminder that like showing up is fun. Like, and that
Yeah.
can be so hard when you're in the thick of an injury recovery or a comeback from something. You're like, what's the point of even showing up?
Aw.
You
Yeah.
know?
Or like just when, everything else has you're just overloaded with life,
Yeah.
and a workout
And
is
you're-
just the last thing that you
And
have
you're
time
worried
for,
it's
having
going
your
to
mind.
take more than it's
Yes.
going to give you. But often it will give you more than it takes.
It's so true.
And like, that's why setting something, I'm just going to do 1 mile, or I'm just going out for 30 minutes, or I can turn around at 10 minutes. Something like that can really like help.
Yeah, or picking,
like-
like we always talk about picking on a Peloton, picking a 10-minute or a 20-minute
Yeah.
activity, and you can stack them if you still feel good. And then
Or you can
you're
bail.
not-
You can even bail midway.
You can bail after 10 minutes. You can bail after 5 minutes.
Like I've done
okay.
like 10-minute strength workouts that had as many rounds as possible.
Yeah.
So AMRAP at the end, and they're like minimum of 3 rounds. I'm like, did my 3 rounds, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can do the minimum.
Yeah.
The minimum is still more than nothing.
It is. Yeah,
Like-
exactly. It's still going to make a difference. It's still going to have a benefit. So even if
we'll
it's,
go this way.
but yeah.
We're covering like a huge circle that we don't usually cover, especially well, we've done a lot of these paths running, but like
Yeah.
not in this format. This has been mine and Brian's like long walk
Yeah.
that we've been doing. Not with the lake. The lake was in like this
We
is a
added
pretty
even
long
more.
walk actually. Okay, I mean we're at an hour and 2 minutes already.
That's
so this is
amazing.
gonna be a really long pod. Even with the
good.
starts and stops.
Yeah.
So that is good because I feel like some people do listen to us when they're out running.
Yeah.
So we're pretty deep in. We should probably end this episode. So I'm going to say please like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And please, please, please give us questions and topics and let us know what you want us to cover. Send us your goals. Send us things that we can shout out about you because we would love to get the conversation going with our listeners and, kind of hear what you're up to.
Yeah, and if you, listen to us while on your run or something, tag us
Yes.
and let us know. And
Please tag us
love
in
to.
stories. We will share
Yeah.
you on Instagram.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess we'll talk to you all later.
All right. Bye.